What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Bay Rats and Buoys. I'm your host, Captain Gage. Thanks for tuning in. Super excited to be here. This is going to be the Shark Week episode in January, so we don't have to wait until the summertime for Shark Week. I'm going to give it to you right now. But first, super excited about the New York Boat Show going down at the iconic Javits Center, January 22nd through the 26th. I am going to be there hosting Bay Rats and Buoys. All 5 days of the show will be at booth 1260. If you guys want to stop by and say hello, check us out. Be happy to see you there. Grab some merchandise. We'll have some stickers and stuff there. If you guys want a Bay Rats and Buoys sticker, head on over to bayratsandbuoys.com. Fill out the form, and we'll be happy to get one out to you. I can't believe first week of January is already behind us. We're just 97 days away until the opening of striped bass season for us on April 15th. But again, nothing more important than the boat show going down in 2 weeks. I can't wait to host a podcast live from the boat show. That's going to be a ton of fun, guys. We are going to bring you up close and personal with the manufacturers. You'll see exclusive interviews. You're going to learn from the experts at the show. We're going to bring you the latest technology right on camera, so if you can't make it to the show, you're still going to be able to get to see all the new gizmos and gadgets for any boat that you want to get them installed on. It doesn't have to be just a new boat. I'm going to put some of the new stuff on my 20-year-old boat, that's for sure. We're going to highlight new products that exhibitors have there at the show, so we're super excited about that. And we're going to be giving away some free boating and fishing tips and advice for everybody from all the different experts and the captains that I'll be sitting with at the boat show. So again, just a super exciting time of the year for us, and we can't wait for that. In every episode, guys, I am going to start letting you in on some of my trade secrets that I love and that are very effective, and stuff you're probably not going to see on most charter boats. But I do like to use different stuff. Me and my mate Corey are real into different techniques and not just going out there and trolling. We'll take you out there and use the flutter spoons. And in this case, I'm going to show you, I love the Nomad Vibes. And I'm just going to show you the different ones that I have here. In this case, the Vertrex Max. I'll put them up on the video here. I got the bunker colored one. I have the Hollow Ghost Shad. And then I think this one is listed as Fusilier. So those are the three different colors that I have here, and I mean, any of these work. We've caught fish on every single one of these colors. I will order the other colors, that is for sure. And then on the other side, I got the Squid Tracks. Okay, so I got the Tiger, the Pink Tiger, and I think this is AU Speckle, I think this one's called. So you can check those out at nomad.com or Nomad Design, Nomad Tackle. You can find them online, but that is what I love to use for the striped bass. One of the different lures other than the flutter spoons and all the normal techniques and all the normal things that we do use. So those work great, very effective. I love the hooks on them. They're fantastic. If I pick one up now, it'll totally stick to my finger, which I'm not going to do. And I recommend them. It's a great item. I love it. And I love the case. I love having stuff like this. You can see how I keep my stuff. And we throw that in a couple of the bins on the boat, and that's it. So this episode 15, I figured why wait until the summertime to talk about all this shark fishing and all the different stuff? Because there was a time just a few years ago, I want to say 4 years ago, when I wanted to get into some bigger fish. I wanted to catch some bigger fish. And here on Long Island. And, you know, the biggest fish we catch in our area for me is a 50-pound bass, a 20-pound bluefish, and, a 10-pound tog. Those are good fish for us to catch in our area. And are there bigger fish? Yes. And there's some big fish on the South Shore, on the Atlantic Ocean, off the beaches, and they're real close to shore. So, in fact, we were shark fishing one very cloudy morning, and I have the GoPro footage I'll be able to pop up here. And we were the only ones on the beach. We were the only ones fishing on the beach. If you look to the left, you don't see anybody. You look to the right, there's nobody, because it was overcast. It was cloudy. It just looked like it was going to pour. And I happened to have my kids on the beach that day, and they each caught a ton of sharks, which I'll show you here in the videos, and we'll get into all that. But the reason for me saying that is while we were there shark fishing, my son's like, check out the boil out there, Dad. The bluefish are going crazy. And I look at him and I'm like, that's not bluefish. I mean, we're seeing that from where we are. That's a big boil. And it was bluefin tuna. And they weren't far from the beach. I mean, we could see it going on. I happened to have 2 drones with me. So when I go to the beach, I would take 2 drones. And I'm going to get into how I would set this all up and target the sharks and do it for when I was doing it. I don't do it anymore. I haven't gone on the beach in a few years now to target them. But when I was doing it, I was using the drones to fly it out. So this particular day, I had 2 drones with me. I had 2 Mavic Pros, and one was a Mavic Pro 2 and one was the original Mavic Pro. The original Mavic Pro is the one that I like to use to fly the bait out. This way, if something happened to it, it disappears, it falls in the water, the lines get wrapped around the prop and it disappears. I don't care. The newer one that was $2,500 I cared a little bit more about, so that one wasn't getting hooked up to the 8-ounce weight and the bluefish fillets and the 20-yard hook to fly it out there on the rig, which you'll see in the video. Now, I was going to wait to make this video in the summertime because I was going to sit here and show you guys how I make the rigs. But, a podcast really isn't about the how-to as far as the making the rigs and how to do it all. As far as making the stuff that you use. It's more about telling you my technique and how I did it and showing you that here online. So it's going to be a lot easier in the podcast to show you with the B-roll. I went through all my pictures today. I started on July 8th. And it was 2021, and I started off going to Gilgo and Democratic Point, and I had been fishing. So one of the key components to even getting into catching the sharks was having the right bait. And I'll show you here in the pictures. I didn't just go to a store and buy bait to go shark fishing because you want to use fresh bait. You really want to, don't get me wrong. You could show up with a frozen bluefish, defrost it and fillet it and put it on the 20-yard hook and you are going to hook up. And that was my main thing, was going out a day or two before, the day before, and get on the bluefish so that I could show up to the beach the next day with a cooler with bluefish. And if I had a cooler full of bluefish, I was guaranteed. Didn't matter what the tide was. And there's some times that were better, but I was guaranteed to hook up with sharks and stingrays. And I'm going to explain to you how I was able to eliminate a lot of the bycatch because there were some big stingrays. Stingrays the size of this table right here. I don't even know if you can see this glass table, but it's a 4-foot round table. And the stingrays, some of them are massive. And I got opened up by one, which I'll explain to you here and how that all happened. It was a cow-nose stingray that actually opened me up. To no fault of my own. I didn't do anything wrong. And I wasn't in the water like Steve Irwin with it. But I just wanted to go chase something bigger than the bass and the blues. And I said, let me try this. Long Island Shark Man, everybody knew what he was doing at Tobay and catching, big sharks from the beach. And there were a couple different techniques people were using. They were using kayaks, which I had at the time. And I told you recently in one of my podcasts that I sold it. And the young man messaged me, he saw the podcast. He saw me talk about it. And he got it in Northport. My kayak is still local, which is kind of cool. And a drone. Those were the 2 options that you had for getting the bait out to catch the sharks. And all you really had to do was get it out over the sandbar. Once you got it out over the sandbar, it was a matter of 20 minutes, 30. If you waited 30 minutes for a rod to bend in half, I feel that was a lot. I don't think it took that long. And some mornings longer than others. Some mornings we had 7 fish on in no time. My kids caught so many sharks in just a couple of trips. And, it attracts a crowd, so it was more fun when there was nobody there and less people there because, I didn't do it on the weekends, guys. There was no way I was going. I think there was one Friday night at Democratic Point. I was there like later in the afternoon, like 2 o'clock until, I want to say like 3 o'clock until the sun was going down. And I landed, like a 96-inch sand tiger shark. And at the time, I had shark tags from Noah, and I was tagging a whole bunch of different sharks, different species, and they send you the card and what's a prohibited shark and what the targeted shark species. And I got to tell you, there are a lot of sharks on the South Shore, and people know that they're there. They've been there forever. But I think it's because social media now and everybody's got a phone that you start to see it more. And you're seeing a lot more of it. You're hearing a lot more of it because of social media. Before Facebook, there were still sharks here. They were hearing the same numbers they're here now. You didn't know they were there. The surfers knew they were there because they seen them out there. And these aren't the types of sharks that are, biting and hurting people. I did get to the beach one morning around 11 o'clock, and guys that were fishing to the right of me, a couple hundred yards away when I pulled up, said to me that somebody had just caught, right where I pulled my truck up and set up shop, somebody had just caught like a 6-foot juvenile great white. So I was like super stoked that maybe I'm going to hook into a great white. Listen, you're always out there. You're trying to get the threshers and the spinners and the blue sharks. You're trying to get different species. That's why you're there. But that's the thrill of it, is you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know what's running with the rod, what's making it bend in half. And to me, that's why I wanted to switch it up and do that from the beach. So I was going every morning. It's super. Once you start hooking into them and figuring it out, I did learn a lot. And that's kind of why this podcast is, it's great for anybody that's, looking to go there and catch sharks and do some shark fishing. Maybe I could pass on some advice and some, learn from my trials and tribulations, because it definitely was a learning curve. And I remember my first shark that I caught, a sand tiger shark, on July 8th. And I remember the guy that came over to me. He was Nassau County Marine Division, police department, and he came over, introduced himself. I was wearing my Cito shirt at the time, and we were talking, and he came over. He took pictures and videoed. He couldn't believe it. He wanted to get into it. He was telling his brother-in-law or his cousin they want to get into shark fishing from the beach, and he thought it was the coolest thing. So it was a lot of fun meeting a lot of cool people on the beach. And that night that I said the sun was going down and it was getting dark at Demo, a Jeep pulled up next to me, guy in his mid-20s and his girlfriend, and he had a potato launcher. So it was just kind of cool to see, all the different stuff that people go to the beach to use. He had a crazy Jeep setup, and he pulled out this PVC setup that he had. I have the video here. I have it. I stuck around to watch him launch it, and, he had frozen bait. So I was curious as how that was going to work. I even gave him that night. I gave him one of my shark rigs. So when I break down how I tied up the rigs and what I did and what I've learned from when I started on July 8th until now, was incredible. It really was. So that was the trials and tribulations of shark fishing here on the island. And I started off using, I think, 14, 15, and 16-aught shark hooks, big circle hooks, okay? And showing up to the beach with the bucket and the hook remover, that was a big no-no. So the hook remover, the bucket was ready. I had the tape measure. I had the tags ready to go. Everything was ready. And for that first shark, big mistake, pulling it onto dry sand. So as I got better and better at this, I learned, what I'm doing wrong. And the good news is I wasn't posting any of this on social media. So I wasn't looking for the scrutiny of everybody, which was funny. The kid that had the Jeep that night came over to me and showed me pictures of some guy on the beach that caught a shark, and he showed me a picture of me on the beach that somebody else took while I had the shark there. So there were big crowds. When you catch an 8.5-foot sand tiger shark, you're going to draw a lot of people to come over and take pictures and think it's cool. And some people may ridicule and say, not cool, let it go, blah, blah, blah. Which is all we were doing was measuring it, putting a tag in it, and getting it back in the water. Which you're going to see in a lot of the videos here. before I even started taking my friends, because, man, I was getting a lot, he's shooting the pictures out to your friends in groups that I'm in of pictures of these giant sharks, and they're just like, no way, dude. That's, it's unbelievable that you're catching fish that size from the beach. You just started, you're going to the beach, you're flying the bait out, you're dropping the rig, and you're hooking up with these fish. It was pretty wild. So everybody started asking me, hey, can you take me shark fishing? And I said, yeah. So I took a couple of guys. I took Dan and that whole group, Dan, Steven, Jed. Jed came, and Jed brought his buddies. And Chef Rob came along with Jed. So it was Chef Rob, it was Jed, it was Dan. So there was times where we had a crowd of, 4 or 5 guys that all wanted to hook up with the sharks. And that was a ton of fun. I can't argue that. That is absolute ton of fun. But I did a lot of this going by myself. So now if I went in 15 minutes, I'm set up, the rods are in the sand, the board, boom, fly it out, drop the bait, and I'll explain to you how I did all of that and how I got so good at it. And it was just, to me, it was pretty easy to just go to the beach and hook up with a shark. So first of all, you had to have, in my case, you either had to have a kayak or a drone. And if you're going with the kayak, I definitely recommend going with somebody else to help you. You're not going to want to do that by yourself. But going with the drone, I was able to set the rig up in the sand right here, and I had a special way that I put the rods into the sand. I didn't just put the rod holders straight down and put the drone up and fly the bait out, okay? The rod that I was going to use to fly the bait out was the same rod that I was going to hook up with the fish and eventually make vertical, but to start out, I banged a big PVC pipe into the sand at like a 45-degree angle. And I was using a Penn Senator. I even spooled up 80-pound braid. I even spooled up a Okuma cold water reel with a clicker so I could see how far out I was going, besides looking at the screen of how far the drone was saying I was dropping it, because originally that's what I was going by, is how far the drone is flying out. And I had the rod at a 45-degree angle, and to get it set up, I kept the clicker on, okay? And then after it was set up and I'm about to lift the drone up and fly it out with the bait on it, I would put it in free spool. I wrapped medical tape around my thumb, very flexible medical tape. I bought it at CVS, and I was able to keep my thumb on the spool while the other hand is flying the drone out. Okay, the rod's in the rod holder, fingers on the spool, and I'm pushing forward on the drone, and boom, there goes the line. And that made it so that the line didn't bow out into a big giant bow, that the line stayed straight. And when I got it out to the point that I wanted it to get to, the 435, 450 feet, sometimes 600 feet, once I got over the sandbar, I would drop it and I would just put the reel in strike mode, strike, and pull on the rod. And the way that I set up my shark rigs, I had a little gannet clip hooked up to the drone. And basically, that's just like an outrigger clip with two bearings, two balls that are being pushed together with pressure. And you're able to adjust it. So I would tie like a 30-pound mono and made a loop to the shark rig that would now clip right into the drone. And that's what it was able to lift up with an 8-ounce weight, a 20-aught hook. And I told you I used 14 and 15-aught hooks in the beginning. But I learned over time by using the 20-aught hook that I bought at J&H Tackle. They were $3 a piece. I eliminated trying to get the hook out of the shark's mouth with a hook remover. That was not a fun task at all. So I found it a lot easier to take the bolt cutters and just cut the barb end on the outside of his mouth. Boom, cut it. The hook fell right out of his mouth. I grabbed him by the tail and right back into the water, or I would measure him, tag him, and pull him into the water. And over time, I learned the proper procedure. I kept them in the water. I never pulled them out onto dry sand, which was a mistake I made in the beginning. The good news is out of the 53 sharks that I've tagged, I have not gotten any information back on any of the tags that I submitted, and I submitted them all to NOAA. So I don't think anybody's caught any of the sharks that I tagged. And none of the sharks that I tagged showed up on a beach with my tag in it. I would have gotten a phone call about it for sure. So that was kind of the hope to it. Where do these sharks go? Where does it get caught next? Is it going to be in Jersey? Is it going to be in the Carolinas? Does it come back? Did it leave? It doesn't have a tracking device on it. It just has a tag that gets punched through. And so the way I set those rods up is after I flew it out and got the bait out over the sandbar, and I put it in strike mode, and it made tension on the line and pulled the line out of the outrigger clip, the gannet clip that it's called, that you purchase. It's called a gannet clip, goes around the drone. And once it frees itself, the drone's flying by itself. It just stays right where it is. It just hovers right where it was. So I take the rod and I put it in the rod holder next to it that was already tapped into the sand vertically. And that is very important because I have learned a few lessons and some funny stories we'll get into here. But I tap those things down real hard with a big rubber mallet that I bought at Harbor Freight, and I bang it down. So the bolt cutters, the mallet, the bucket, the tape measure, the tag, the drone, the board for the drone to land on, or so I wasn't doing it off of one of the flying discs that they give you as a pad, a drone landing pad. I used a piece of plywood, which worked out much better. Anyway, now the line drops into the water with the bait, and I take that rod and I put it into the vertical rod holder. And it could go off in a minute, 2 minutes. So with my other hand, I'm already flying the drone back with one hand. Here comes the drone. It's flying back. I land it. I shut it off. I put it on the back of my truck, and that's it. The one rod is out. If I need a second rod out, I can put a second rod out, but I learned my lesson with that too. Sometimes two rods is not greater, because I did hook up with two sharks at the same time, and that was total chaos. It really was. And there were times where the park rangers at Gilgo, with my wife and my kids on the beach with crowds, left and right, cars everywhere, people fishing, and they would come over and help me hold the rod with the shark on it so that I can go grab the leader, keep him in the water, and unhook the shark. Sometimes I didn't even tag him because it was such a quick procedure. I just stayed in the water, I unhooked him, and boom, I let him go. So after a while, I have to say now, looking back at it all in hindsight, releasing the shark was probably more fun than catching the shark. It really was. Now, after catching striped bass and bluefish and going to, Shinny and Smith's Point and all the different beaches here on Long Island, Montauk, and fishing from the surf, catching these big sharks on an ugly stick and a $60 rod that I'm going to put up on here, and one guy came over to me and he said, wow, that's a serious telephone pole. And I said, stick around, because that telephone pole is going to bend in half with an 8.5-foot shark on the other end of it. And he's just like, no way. And I'm like, yeah, and the big stingrays too. So even though it looked like it was a fatter rod that you wouldn't go fishing on a boat with, it did its job on the beach because it helped me to fight these fish and get them in quicker. I only had one shark. It was a sand tiger, and a surfer came over, and him and his buddy actually helped me. They were taking pictures of me. Because when you're by yourself, people see you. I put the rod sometimes in the rod holder and go back down to the edge of the beach and now pull the leader, with a beast on the other end, and pull it into the first breaking waves. And I'm on my knees, and the waves are breaking over my back. And now I got to get the hook out of this thing, and that's why the best way to get the hook out was to cut it, because these sharks have teeth. In the beginning, my friends were saying, you're catching sharks. They're, small little 6-footers, 5-footers. Those are sand sharks. They don't have any teeth. And then I sent them pictures of their mouths open, and I was like, dude, these are not sand sharks. These are not spiny dogfish by any stretch of the imagination, These were sand tigers, browns, duskies, and unfortunately, all of them are listed on the prohibited shark list. You know, they don't want you targeting these species. So that was the big learning, the learning curve here, looking back over the years. I only did it really for one summer that I went out there and caught 53 sharks. I think that was a specific number. And every photo I'm going to put up here, I have is of a different shark. You'll see, I'll change the outfits, but there's days where I caught 4 or 5 sharks in the same outfit, and they're different size, they're different species. Dan was really the only one, I think, that got a beautiful two-tone. I mean, it was absolutely gorgeous, and you get to see the marks. They're so majestic, and that's why I say the releasing them was more fun than catching them, because now you're walking this thing out into 3 feet of water, waist high, and you're releasing them and letting them go. And he's not looking to turn around and bite you. Yeah, they're thrashing around while you got them close to the shore because they're on the beach and they don't want to be on the beach. They want to be in the water swimming. And so I get that. But they weren't really at no time trying to bite you and take you, even though they do have their mouths open with sharp teeth. I didn't get bit by any. But I did have a mishap with a cow-nose stingray. And it was interesting because I was at demo, and a bunch of guys, older gentlemen, saw me. And when people see you with the rod on the beach and it's bent in half, they know there's either a lot of times they think it's a stingray, so they know it's a stingray or a shark. That's no bluefish, that's no striped bass. And they were yelling over to me when they saw me get the stingray into the breaking waves. When they saw it come up into the waves, they were yelling at me, "Watch out for the barb!" And I had already known about the barbs. Obviously, I had caught 15 stingrays already, and some of them were huge. I went to flip this thing over because the mouth is on the bottom of the stingray, and the mouth is small. It's like a 4-inch little gap, on the bottom of them. And you started to learn over time when you hooked up and the rod was bent in half, how the fish was fighting you. You can almost call, what type of shark it was, whether it was a stingray or a shark. You kind of knew by the head shake and whether it was dead weight or not, that you're not pulling in a parachute. That was clearly a stingray. And when they get close to the beach, they suction to the ground. But I was flipping him over. And as I'm reaching under him to flip him over, a wave came, and this was me just being nice and I should have pulled him out onto the dry sand. This wouldn't have happened. So I was trying to keep everything in the water at that time. I'm truly not here to kill anything. I'm tagging them. I'm not killing them. And that's not the purpose of me being there. And I flip it over. And as I go to flip him over this way and lift him over to flip him that way, a wave comes and washes him up against my legs, which now his barb just whips around me like that, and then he falls back down flat. That's all that happened. And in that time of him being up against my leg and falling back down, his razor sharp barb put a nice gash in my lower ankle, which I have a nice, if you don't like any gory stuff, now's a good time to close your eyes, because I'm going to put the picture up here. And the 2 older gentlemen that had yelled out to me, "Watch out for the barb," I yelled back to them, "It's too late." I looked down at my ankle. The blood was just, dripping down the ankle. It's totally red. I release it. I get back up to the truck. I got a case of spring water back there, and I'm rinsing it off and cleaning it. And I got peroxide and the first aid kit in the truck, and they're helping me wrap it up. So I got my leg up on the tailgate. I'm pouring the water over it. They're helping me wrap it and tape it. I wind up heading to the doctor, and I think, what did I get, like 12 or 13? I can count the staples. They're in my leg in the photograph here. So I got a couple staples from a cow-nose stingray, and, I could sit at the table with the captains in jaws and hold my leg up on the table and show them my scar. So I got a story to tell, and I got a scar to show for it. So that's kind of cool. But you're looking it up online there by other shark guys that were shark fishing there at the beach that day came over. I was like, yo, bro, you want my bluefish? I'm out of here. I just got opened up by a cow nose. And, you look them up, they're venomous, they're poisonous, all these different things. And I don't know which one of those two they are, but when I looked it up at the time, it was either venomous or poisonous, one of those. And I was like, oh, great. This is great. My face is going to swell up. And so went and got the staples. And a day later, I was back on the beach shark fishing. So the way I was to eliminate that bycatch of a stingray was to now switch, go to J&H and switch from a 16 or a 14 or a 15-aught hook and go with a 20-aught hook. I would put a bigger bluefish fillet that the stingray almost couldn't get in his mouth, that it was too big. And I would put a red rubber band around the bluefish fillet to hold it on the hook. And my hookup ratio was insane after that. And I caught a lot less stingrays. I mean, if I caught one, it was going to be a massive one. And I got to say, after that, I probably caught only a handful of them. So that really worked. So switching it up to a bigger hook, bigger piece of bait. And there were times where I didn't have bluefish. And I would go to North Shore Farms, and I would go in and I would buy Spanish mackerel. And I would take the Spanish mackerel and cut that into 4 nice big fillets. And 4 big fillets should be getting me 3 sharks, I had no break-offs. So 80-pound braid, 174-pound American fishing wire. I'll show you the gear that I used as far as swivels and everything was, higher weight, 300-pound. And I never broke off. The one time that my 80-pound braid did snap is when my son said, those are bluefish out there boiling, Dad. And I flew the drone out with a piece of bait on it and got it into the bluefin tuna. The minute I dropped the bait into the water, this thing took off. The reel was snap, gone. The minute I went to set that thing, I just snapped right off. So to me, that was no shark. I had put it into the mix that was going on. So that was the only time that I had 80-pound braid break on me while shark fishing. So I used a old Senator reel. All right. There were times where I'd leave the clicker on just for videos and, let you hear it running. And that was a lot of fun, but not good for the clicker and the drag washer. And, there were times where I had to bring those in and get them fixed because the drag washer got all messed up. Don't use a tripod with a GoPro and keep it in the water down there while you're trying to release the shark when the waves come in and knock it over. The salt water is totally going to ruin your tripod, so I've gone through a few expensive and nice tripods doing that. But the key to it was really bigger hooks and, $3. And I made my own shark rigs, which that will be a video all on its own on YouTube where I show you how to make the shark rigs. And there's guys out there in Florida that are making them. There's great channels and guys that I watched. And I even bought one from Black Tip H, but the one that I made, I felt like it was better. And, I bought the crimping tools and all the stuff to use. So I'll have a video that I post on YouTube, and you guys should go ahead and check out the YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button. We are doing pretty good there, organically growing it. And I could say by the end of the year, we're going to have the number we're looking for. And subscribe to the channel because I will post a video on how I made the shark rigs and the stuff that I'm talking about here, but not for a podcast. Showing you how I made shark rigs is really not a podcast. That's more of a tutorial video on how to make shark rigs. So that's why I didn't have that stuff here. I was digging through it this morning. I really was. I was like, I'm going to do the shark video today because I got tons of footage. I got tons of pictures that as I'm talking to you now, I'm going to be showing you. And some of the big crowds that appeared. When all of a sudden you got an 8-foot shark on the beach and they see you by yourself. And sometimes you had to ask for help. And sometimes people voluntarily would come over and give you a hand, measure. They saw him measuring and holding the tape and trying to do it so that I could get the information on the shark. I was trying to, you're always going to get a guesstimated weight by the size. So I would really just want to get a length, and you would get the length and then to the fork and to the tip of the tail. So those were the 2 lengths that I measured. And then you would try to get that and guesstimate that, a 96-inch fish was, 175 pounds or whatever the chart would say. say, and you would go by that as far as submitting the information. I was not weighing the shark, that's for sure. So the information that you fill out on the card. So it was nice when somebody else helped you. It was always nice when you had friends there to do it. But again, the guys are surfing out there at Gilgo, at all the different beaches, Long Beach especially. And my surfing buddies tell me they see the sharks in the waves with them all the time. It's a very common occurrence. And you never hear of the guys getting bit by sharks. Very rare. And I'm going to say it would really... probably you're more in danger with a juvenile great white that's in the water, because they're going to go test bite something. These sand tigers, the duskies, the sandbars, those sharks are not going after any humans or any surfers or anything. And, there were guys that would pull up next to me. I just had a 5-6 foot shark on the beach. And they'd pull up next to me and they'd go in wakeboarding with their kids right here, jumping over the waves and whatnot. And I'm not going to go over there and scare them and say, hey, look, I'm going to be 20 minutes from now, I'm maybe reeling in a shark over here, and then I got to let it go, and you guys are swimming right there. So it wasn't like you wanted to install any fear in people. And one of the captains at my dock, he mates on a charter boat, and he told me that because of the Long Island Shark Man, that regulations were changed and implemented basically because of him. And, I know he was chartering. He was taking people out to the beach and, charging people $300 or whatever to go catch a shark. I didn't want to take anybody out and go do this. I felt like this was something that I wanted to do, get it out of my system. I did catch some really big fish. We all say the tug is the drug. Well, guys, when you're holding on to the rod, there were times where the rod holder broke, the rod is going in the water, and we got to run and dive and grab the rod. So when I say to you to bang that PVC pipe down with a mallet, get that PVC pipe down. I'm going to put up videos. Yeah, I have videos of the rod getting hit. You see the shark hit it and then snap. Those little metal ones with the PVC pipe attached to the metal that's riveted on, that thing is going to break off in 10 seconds of any decent-sized shark from a beach here on Long Island. So I wouldn't recommend buying any of those. I'd recommend cutting a diagonal on the bottom of a PVC pipe. It goes right into the sand, much better. And a 3-inch piece will be fine. I got to tell you, there were times with those rod holders that you do tap in and they have the legs on them and you step them down into the sand. There were times with that smaller rod holder diameter that it was hard to get the rod out. It was hard to get the rod out because the shark is now pulling this tension, and you'll see my son holding on to it here. He's holding on to it. There was a time when my daughter's on the rod. They were doubled up. It's a great story. It's a great father story. They don't want to go snapper fishing or porgy fishing. Although the porgies are fun for kids because it's a constant bite. So I got to say that is good. But they don't want to go snapper fishing anymore after being on the beach with me. Because that day that I said to you that he saw the bluefin and that we were the only ones, you looked left, you looked right, there was nobody there. Here's the video to that. I could put that up here. And they're doubled up. Because it's me, at the time he was now, so he's 12. So I'm going to say he was 7, 8. And my daughter is 6. And they're both doubled up on sharks. And we got a picture. It was so cool. So we have the 2 rods bent and they're fighting it. I'm not helping my daughter. I'm letting her do this. It's in the rod holder. She could reel it in. She's holding it. And my son's screaming when this thing's bending in half and pulling drag. We get them into the beach, and they're in the waves, and 2 4x4 trucks are passing by, not fishing, just driving by, and it happens to be 2 husbands and wives in their, 60s, and the guy gets out, and he's like, yo, did you see the bluefin tuna earlier? I'm like, oh, my God, you saw that? I'm like, I flew the drone out, and I'll put that up here. I have some of the above footage. It was a little tougher to see because it was an overcast day. So, but you'll see them. They were making a wake as they were going after the bait. which was so cool. And I'm like, yeah, I saw the bluefin tuna. He's like, how cool was that? I'm like, it was so close to the beach. I want you to know I flew the bait out and they broke me off. I definitely want to say the bluefin tuna broke me off that day. And he took my camera and took my phone and took a picture of me holding the heads of the sharks and my kids are grabbing the tails. And, this is an epic memory. My kids are never going to forget this. And, they go fly fishing. They go, obviously, shark fishing. My son loves catching the striped bass with flutter spoons and jigging them up. So this was an epic adventure by all means. And, guys, this was such a good learning experience for them. And again, safety first. So that's why I'm at the head and they're at the tail. And speaking of the tail, I'm there with Dan and Steven, and we were still new at this. And I'm pulling I want to say a sandbar shark, a little 4-foot, 5-foot guy, probably a 5-foot guy out of the water. And I got him on the beach. And his head is facing you guys now, and the tail's between my legs. And you hear this thing slap me on the inner thigh, which is like the worst place to get slapped by anything. And you hear me scream like a little girl, like, ah, it hurt, but it was hysterical. And so I got whapped in the thigh with a tail. That was the only time that happened. My heel got opened up because a shark's mouth did swing and hit me in the heel. He definitely didn't bite me, but I think I actually hit him in the teeth, and it was a sand tiger. So, their teeth are jagged and going every direction, as opposed to the other sharks where the teeth are, inward and whatnot. Those sand tigers, the teeth are incredible. So, there were times where, I tell you, safety first. There were times where I had small little mishaps, and thank God it was only the Kauno Stingray that, the wave washed him into me. I didn't get a barb stuck into my calf or my leg, and, I was pretty careful about all that stuff, and especially taking photographs with them. So a lot of times, it was a screenshot from the GoPro, and I'm always running the GoPro, so they're always running, and I can't wait to use the new camera next week on the podcast. So, guys, we're stepping it up. We're getting new equipment for the boat show. And I can't wait to use the new camera next week and start that going. That's going to be exciting. So the quality of the show is definitely going to change. The audio, I'm in the studio, so I got my studio microphone on. So I get pretty good audio. And the camera now will definitely increase. I moved over a little bit in the frame today so I can put some more B-roll up here because I have so much shark footage that I'm going to share it all with you as this whole video is playing out. I'll try to match the B-roll up to what I'm saying, but I'm just going to keep shark videos going because I definitely have 45 minutes of shark videos, and this episode is coming up on 45 minutes shortly. So we're going to close it out, but I did want to share a lot of these shark stories with you. They're a ton of fun. I still have friends that want to get out on the beach. Even Corey, my mate, he's like, I got to get out there and catch a shark. So there's a possibility you might catch me at one of the beaches this summer, a couple days. I did say in a Facebook post recently that I am going to play a little more ice hockey this year. I'm definitely going to golf a little bit more, and maybe we'll take a little bit more time off on some windy days where we're not boating on the North Shore because I'm super busy with my charters, guys. And me, between being a commercial tow captain full-time and chartering, every morning, your time is like, holy cow. So we're fishing a lot. So maybe on windy days or days where it's overcast and it's not going to be a great day for us on the North Shore, maybe we'll shoot to the beaches on the South Shore and put a couple of my buddies on some of these sharks again, just so that they could experience it. And I got to tell you, releasing it, there's just something so majestic about holding this big shark in your hands and feeling. I mean, there was one shark, I went to put my hand around the end of his tail, the skinniest part of his tail, and I could not get my hands around. It was like trying to put it around my thigh right now. Literally, the highest part of my thigh, trying to put two hands around it, and that was the skinniest part of his tail. So some of these fish had a girth on them that I mean, I even measured, we had tape measures and, the wicked tuna, the CUDA measures, the big blue tape you'll see in some of the pictures, because that was easier to see in the video, so I didn't want people to I wasn't guessing. I wanted people to see that I'm opening this thing up. You see from the head to the dorsal fin is 38 inches already. It's a decent sized shark. And the girth of some of these was huge. Might be nice to make me a nice wall mount of one of the big sharks that I caught. I got some amazing photographs, so it's a matter of the paint and the coloring it and having them do it right. That's really all I would want done. But it's definitely something. And the Stingray too. I mean, we caught some monsters, some big stingrays. Those things are beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. And you grab them by the gills on the top, and hopefully they don't suction to the sand. So you grab them by the gills and you lift them up, and that's how I would put them back in the water. So I never had any instance where I was in danger because of the barb. I really stayed away from that side of the Stingray, and it was incredible. So that all started July 8th, 2021, and lasted that whole summer. And I hope you guys enjoyed some of the shark stories here. Hope you enjoyed some of the footage, because that was probably the best part of it, is knowing that I was recording a lot of stuff. But guys, again, in every episode, I am going to start showing you some of the stuff that I love to use on my boat come the springtime. And in the springtime, I'm probably not going to be using these as quickly. I'm going to match the hatch. So in this case, a 6-inch bunker would work. These will definitely work in the springtime, no doubt. But I do like to match the hatch, and in the springtime, I find that, you got to let that water warm up and let their digestive systems get going. 55 degrees is like the magic temperature for us as far as the striped bass. Once the water's 55, the bite starts really turning on. In the springtime, plan on doing some spear fishing around the local shores in my area in the springtime. I'm going to see if we can, April 1st, see if we can find any of the winter flounder. We do catch a few here and there, but the stock of those have diminished. But because we don't target it and go after them, maybe I'll see some from the shoreline and get some cool footage at least. That'll be fun. So I'm looking forward to that. 97 days away until opening day for striped bass. 2 weeks away from the boat show, where I will be hosting this podcast, Bay Rats and Buoys Live, from Wednesday, January 22nd to Sunday, January 26th. So all 5 days I'll be at the iconic Javits Center. I am so excited to be there and get that show underway. We've put a lot of work into the design and all the back end and the marketing, and so I'm pretty excited about it. You guys could head over to sandcitycharter.com, check out some of the stuff. I update that site every day. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, guys. Greatly appreciate you. All our Facebook friends and family, I love you guys. I love all the groups that I'm in. I see all the posts. I see what guys are posting every day. And I follow you guys religiously. And if you are coming to the boat show, we'll be at booth 1260. So just stop by and be like, yo, what's up, man? I've seen a couple of your videos. Seen you in the fishing report. I don't know who you are or who are you, so just stop by, say hello. Maybe you have seen me, maybe you haven't. So, love to meet you, talk about fishing, talk about boating, and that's it. Episode 15 is in the books. I can't believe it's 15 episodes already. So next week will be episode 16. I might have a special guest. It's been spoken about. We've said the week that it's going to happen. I just haven't gotten a confirmation on it yet. So if I don't have the guest on next week's show, then we're just going to go right to the boat show. And on the 22nd, that's when we're going to start with the live interviews. And we'll be putting up multiple podcasts that day. So Wednesday, multiple podcasts. Thursday, multiple podcasts. So there's going to be a whole bunch. We'll give you some behind the scenes of a sneak peek at the early look at the boat show. So if you are going there, hope to see you there. If you're not, check out my videos, because we will videotape everything at the boat show, and we will be doing some really cool live interviews with manufacturers and the boating experts, and get you all the engines and the specs and all the new equipment that's coming out. Very exciting time of the year. Boat shows all around the United States right now. So Florida, Jersey, New York, everybody's got boat shows going on. It is boat show season. So hope to see you there, guys. Captain Gage, episode 15, signing out. See you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in.